UEFA's warning puts FIFA under pressure before Balogun faces Belgium. Who controls the rules when kickoff is closing in? Trump-Infantino contact, Belgium preparing an appeal, and USA-Belgium sitting under one disciplinary cloud. Tablo Sports starts with the headline, shaking the bracket. UEFA criticizes FIFA's Balogun decision before USA-Belgium. We start with a decision that has turned one player's availability into a governance fight. Not a normal team news update, not a routine appeal story, but a public split around a live World Cup suspension ruling. UEFA criticizes FIFA's Balogun decision before USA-Belgium. The overhyped version is simple. Balogun is cleared, the USA get their striker, everyone argues for a few hours and moves on. The real issue is bigger. UEFA publicly criticizing FIFA's decision creates a credibility problem right before a knockout match. That matters because disciplinary consistency is supposed to be boring, predictable, and almost invisible. Once it becomes the main event, the match starts before the players even walk out. FIFA has cleared Folarin Balogun to face Belgium for the United States, and that is the immediate sporting fact. Balogun, currently at AS Monaco, is eligible for the last 16 tie. But Reuters described UEFA as calling FIFA's decision unprecedented, incomprehensible, and unjustifiable, which is not exactly the language of two governing bodies quietly disagreeing over paperwork. So let us be clear on this. UEFA does not control FIFA World Cup discipline, and this is not a case of UEFA overturning anything. The important bit is the public criticism. When a major confederation uses that kind of language around a player being cleared for a knockout match, it tells every dressing room, federation, and angry fanbase that the process itself is now part of the contest. The football consequence is obvious. Balogun is available, Belgium have to prepare for him, and the USA avoid losing a key attacking option at the most unforgiving point of the tournament. The reputational consequence is messier. If the USA win and Balogun plays a major role, this ruling will not disappear into the match report, it will travel with the result. And then the story gets even more combustible. Once politics enters a disciplinary argument, the room stops talking about procedure and starts asking who picked up the phone. Trump-Infantino contact adds to Balogun clearance storm before USA-Belgium. This is where caution matters. The reporting we have says Donald Trump urged FIFA to review Balogun's suspension, not that he formally overturned it. The dangerous part is perception. In knockout football, perception can be almost as damaging as proof, because every decision becomes a theory with boots on. FIFA may insist on its process, but the optics are now working against the institution. The Washington Post reported that Donald Trump urged FIFA to review Folarin Balogun's suspension before the USA striker was cleared to face Belgium. Balogun is currently an AS Monaco player, which matters because this is not some loose, nameless squad piece dispute. This is a recognized forward becoming the center of a World Cup governance storm. That is not the same as signed, announced political control over a disciplinary panel. It is also not nothing. Look, fans are already splitting into two camps. One side sees justice, a player restored, a suspension reconsidered, a team allowed to compete with a major attacking piece. The other side sees political interference, or at least a process that now looks vulnerable to pressure from powerful people at exactly the wrong moment. The reporting we have says Trump urged a review. That is not the same as signed and announced control over the outcome. The reporting we have does not say FIFA admitted political pressure. It does not say Trump overturned the ban. But the match consequence is locked in. One USA-Belgium knockout game is directly affected by Balogun's availability. That is why the story has legs. Not because it is a neat conspiracy, but because it lands on the pitch. Belgium were never going to just shrug at this. When the opposition striker is cleared after a disputed disciplinary process, the rival federation's silence would almost be the bigger surprise. Belgium prepares appeal after Balogun cleared for USA last 16 tie. Belgium's reported appeal is not just outrage for the cameras, it is a competitive move before a knockout match. The key difference is this: preparing an appeal does not mean the appeal has succeeded, and it does not mean the match is delayed. What Belgium can do now is force scrutiny, keep pressure on FIFA, and make sure every Balogun touch arrives with a political soundtrack. Belgium are reportedly preparing an appeal after FIFA cleared Folarin Balogun to play for the USA in the World Cup last 16. That is the sporting flashpoint. The player is available, the opponent objects, and the ruling has already been criticized by UEFA. This is no longer just American relief or Belgian frustration. It is a precedent argument with a quarterfinal place on the other side. Here is the important bit. Belgium faced the USA in a knockout match, and Balogun's availability changes the USA's attacking selection. He is not guaranteed to start, and nobody should pretend one player automatically decides a tie. But he gives the USA a different profile, a different threat, and a different psychological edge than they would have had if the suspension remained in place. Belgian and neutral reaction is focused on fairness, and that is where this could become toxic. If Belgium lose, the appeal becomes part of the post-match narrative. If Belgium win, FIFA still faces questions about process. Either way, the decision has created a shadow that will not vanish at kickoff. Now zoom out from the paperwork to the actual match. Beneath the argument, USA and Belgium still have to play a last 16 game where the winner reaches the quarterfinals. USA-Belgium last 16 tie, shaped by Balogun and Trump-Infantino controversy. The lazy preview is to talk only about controversy and forget the football. The smarter preview asks how controversy changes the football. The USA get Balogun available, but they also inherit the backlash that comes with it. Belgium may use the grievance as fuel, but grievance does not defend transitions or finish chances. USA against Belgium is now being framed through Folarin Balogun's availability and the reported Trump-Infantino contact that intensified scrutiny of the process. That build-up matters because knockout matches are emotional environments. Players say they block noise out, and sometimes they do. But when the story is this loud, the noise sits in the tunnel with them. For the USA, the practical question is selection. Balogun being eligible gives the coaching staff more attacking flexibility, but it does not mean he has to start. That detail matters. If he starts, every duel becomes a referendum on the ruling. If he comes off the bench, the whole stadium may feel the temperature change before he even touches the ball. Belgium's challenge is to turn anger into structure, not just adrenaline. A team can be furious and still leave space behind the fullbacks like an open invitation. Put it this way, if Belgium spend too much energy trying to win the moral argument, the USA will happily try to win the quarter-final place. Elsewhere, the World Cup gave us another kind of chaos. Not a disciplinary boardroom, but a match that had to be survived in real time. England's win over Mexico was not clean, but it was revealing. Tuchel's 5 mini-games plan explains England's 10-man win over Mexico. The headline score says England beat Mexico 3-2. The real tactical story is that Thomas Tuchel managed the game as separate phases after the match changed shape. Playing part of a World Cup knockout tie with 10 men forces a manager to stop chasing perfection and start managing damage. England did not cruise through this. They had to reorganize, suffer, and still find enough attacking punch to reach Norway. BBC Sport framed England's 3-2 World Cup last 16 win over Mexico as a match managed in 5 distinct phases. That phrase matters because this was not one smooth performance. It was a survival job in Mexico City, and England played part of it with 10 men before reaching the quarterfinals where Norway are waiting. Tuchel's value here was not some glamorous master plan drawn on a whiteboard with dramatic arrows. It was the in-game reading. When a team goes down to 10 men in a knockout match, the entire pitch changes. Pressing triggers change, distances change, and the temptation to panic starts waving at defenders from every channel. Supporters are already debating whether this was England's best World Cup win away from home. That is a spicy debate, and England fans do love placing a fresh result straight into the museum before the sweat has dried. Still, the concrete fact is strong enough. England beat Mexico 3-2, survived the red card context, and now have to prepare for Erling Haaland and Norway. At the same time, Tuchel did not leave the drama on the pitch. He took a famous England win and dragged the refereeing standards into the post-match spotlight. Tuchel criticizes referees after England's heroic Mexico win. This is classic knockout management. Praise your players, attack the conditions, and make the next referee think twice. Tuchel calling the performance heroic gives England a siege narrative before Norway, which can be useful if it does not become an excuse machine. The risk is that England focus so much on officiating that they ignore the pressure they invited themselves. Sky Sports reported that Thomas Tuchel criticized the officials after England's 3-2 win over Mexico, calling them not good enough while praising England's performance as heroic. That is a strong combination. He is protecting his players, pushing a message, and putting pressure on World Cup officiating standards after a match England won despite a red card. So let us be clear on this. There is no confirmed FIFA discipline for the referee in the notes we have, and there is no confirmed official protest from Tuchel. What we do have is a manager using his platform after a high-stakes win to say the officiating was below the level required. In World Cup language, that is a flare fired into the next match week. Fans are split because both readings can be true. England may have overcome poor officiating, and England may also have created some of their own suffering. That is football's annoying little trick. Two things can be true while everyone online screams as if only one is allowed. Now to a story with longer-term impact and possibly the heaviest emotional weight of the round. Cristiano Ronaldo has put a final frame border around his World Cup career. Ronaldo confirms 2026 World Cup will be his last before Portugal face Spain. The sentimental version is obvious. Ronaldo, 6th World Cup, last dance, Iberian rivalry, goosebumps on demand. The harder question is tactical. Should Portugal shape a knockout plan around the name, the moment, or the best way to beat Spain? Ronaldo saying he does not want Spain to be his final World Cup appearance turns selection into legacy pressure. Cristiano Ronaldo has confirmed the 2026 World Cup will be his last as Portugal prepare to face Spain in the last 16. He is 41 during this tournament, appearing at his 6th World Cup, and he has said he does not want the Spain match to be his final World Cup appearance. That is a human line, but it is also a tactical complication. Ronaldo is currently with Al Nassr, and this is not a retirement from football story. It is a World Cup legacy story tied to a live knockout match. Portugal have not been eliminated, Spain have not already sent him home, and the key debate is whether Ronaldo should start against Spain or be used in a more controlled role. Look, nobody needs a lecture on Ronaldo's career. The medals, goals, and gravity are already there. But knockout football does not care about highlight reels once the whistle goes. If Portugal let the occasion pick the team, Spain will smell it. If Portugal make the hard football decision and still give Ronaldo a role that hurts Spain, then sentiment and strategy might actually share the same shirt. That Spain-Portugal tie is not only about Ronaldo either. Spain arrive with their own story, and it sits at the opposite end of the pitch. Spain defensive record under spotlight before Portugal clash. The loudest poster for this match may be Ronaldo against Spain, but the quieter key could be Spain's defensive control. Unai Simon and the back line are being watched because a clean sheet run can become both a shield and a burden. The danger for Spain is thinking a record chase is the same thing as surviving Portugal's attacking moments. Spain's defensive numbers are under scrutiny before the World Cup last 16 match against Portugal. Reports are framing Unai Simon's clean sheet run as part of a possible World Cup history chase, but the wording matters. Spain are chasing a defensive benchmark. We should not overstate the record beyond what is being reported. This is where the match gets fascinating. Portugal brings star power, legacy pressure, and the Ronaldo question. Spain brings structure, possession control, and a defensive run that can change how opponents behave. If Portugal get impatient, Spain can turn the match into a long exercise in frustration. If Spain get too comfortable, one moment against Portugal can make all those clean sheet graphics look very decorative and very useless. Fans are debating whether Spain's defense or Portugal's star power decides the tie, and that is the right debate. Not old rivalry nostalgia, not betting noise, not a montage of past meetings. The concrete battle is whether Spain can keep the match in their rhythm while Portugal try to crack it open with individual quality. Meanwhile, England's reward for surviving Mexico is not exactly a spa day. Norway have knocked out Brazil, and Erling Haaland has turned into the most obvious tactical problem in the tournament. Haaland double sends Norway into a historic quarterfinal against England. This is not a generic Haaland profile, this is England's next problem, arriving with 2 goals and a body count. Norway beating Brazil 2-1 changes the bracket and removes one of the tournament's biggest names. Haaland's 7 goals in 4 World Cup games mean England cannot treat Norway like a nice underdog story. Erling Haaland scored twice as Norway beat Brazil 2-1 in the World Cup last 16, sending Norway into the last 8 and setting up a quarterfinal against England. Haaland is currently a Manchester City player, so England know exactly what kind of penalty box problem is coming at them. That result knocked Brazil out. Not pushed them into another route, not left them waiting on permutations. Out. Haaland's late double is the headline, and the number attached to it is brutal. 7 goals in 4 World Cup games. For England, that changes the conversation immediately. The Mexico win was heroic, messy, emotional, and exhausting. Norway are now the next test, and Haaland is not the kind of striker who politely waits for tired defenders to reset their shape. England fans are already focused on stopping him, which is sensible and also slightly terrifying. Because stopping Haaland is one of those phrases that sounds simple until the first cross arrives, the center back loses half a step, and the ball is already in the net before the analyst can finish saying defensive spacing. That is not the only major move today, because the Balogun story is now spreading beyond normal match coverage. It has become the morning headline package, the kind of controversy that pulls in sport, business, politics, and tournament credibility at once. Morning buzz. Balogun's red card suspension reversal dominates World Cup headlines. Sports Business Journal. When Sports Business Journal's morning buzz is led by Balogun's suspension reversal, that tells you the story has left the football-only lane. The match still matters most, but the commercial and institutional reading matters too. World Cups are built on trust and process. FIFA can survive anger. What it cannot afford is a knockout round where every big ruling looks negotiable. Sports Business Journal's morning buzz framed Balogun's red card suspension reversal as dominating World Cup headlines. That is a useful signal. This is not just supporters arguing about whether the USA gained an unfair advantage. It is now a wider story about how decisions are made, how they are explained, and how fast controversy can overtake the sport itself. Here is the important bit. The core fact remains Balogun's clearance to face Belgium. Everything else circles that consequence. UEFA criticism, the reported Trump push for review, Belgium preparing an appeal, and USA-Belgium's last 16 narrative all connect back to one question. Did the World Cup disciplinary process look consistent when it mattered most? The answer does not need to be a wild conspiracy for FIFA to have a problem. Sometimes the damage is simpler. A process can be technically defensible and still look terrible to half the audience. In a tournament where the winner advances and the loser goes home, that gap between procedure and trust is not a small crack. It is the story of the round. That is today's World Cup breaking picture from Tablo Sports. Balogun cleared, UEFA angry, Belgium pushing back, England alive but bruised, Ronaldo facing one last World Cup edge, Spain protecting a defensive chase, and Haaland waiting for England with 7 goals in 4 games. The tournament is no longer just about who plays well, it is about who survives the noise, who controls the rules, and who pays when the rules start looking flexible.